Another week, another great week to be honest. It was beautiful weather. I mean, I hate to always start these reports off talking about weather, but weather obviously plays a big role in fishing, whether it's pattern driven, whether it's comfort for us, whether it's maybe the mood of the fish, sometimes the bait you're going to throw, the color you're going to throw, that kind of stuff. So another beautiful week of weather. We had some I believe a couple days earlier this week, if I remember, strong rain. Otherwise, the winds actually calmed down a hair. We weren't blown around everywhere like we were the week before. This past week was pretty darn nice. We got some rain that came through this weekend. Otherwise, for the most part, it was a beautiful, beautiful week to be on the water and a great weekend. So to start things off, before we go any further, though, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there in any way, shape, or form. Thanks for all that you do. I know it's been probably the biggest blessing of my life to be a father, and I love it. I love every second of it. It's awesome. So for all the dads out there, and to all the dads out there, thank you for what you do, and keep being a big part of these kids' lives. I know it means the world to them, even if they don't say it. It means the world to them. So happy Father's Day to everybody. Moving on, we caught a pile of different fish this past week in a variety of different ways. Patterns continue to be kind of up and down. You don't know what it's going to be every day. Post-spawn bass, midsummer patterns, stuck in the middle of the weeds, days where you catch a bunch but nothing's big for a pitcher, and then the next day you don't catch much of anything but two giants. Welcome to fishing. That's just how it is. Don't get discouraged. Stay after it. Get out there. Keep chasing down these fish. It's important to keep casting, and this time of year especially, keep moving. So it's a great time of year to catch. If you want to go catching, it's a great time of year to do it. We always make the joke, are you going fishing or are you going catching? You know, a lot of us go fishing and we try to catch fish. You can go catching right now. The bite's pretty good for numbers. Like I said, and if you look at some of these tournaments recently, you're not seeing monster bags. You're seeing respectable fish, but you're not seeing these numbers of 4-pound bass and 5-pound bass come to the scales. You're just seeing a handful, so which is fine. Things will change. So pre-spawn or post-spawn patterns, we're finding fish not as shallow as you would think. 6 to 10 feet seems to be key. It depends on the body of water. If you have a stained water with a variance depth of weed growth versus a clear body of water, you might find fish out deeper. It also depends on water temperature. I mean, I'm seeing a swing from like 72 to like 76 degree water temp right now on a variety of the lakes we're fishing. So things are warming up. They're staying in the mid 70s. And we did catch some fish up fairly shallow in the mornings, let's say 2, 3, 4 feet of water. But as the day progresses, usually by about 9, 10 a.m. already, they're out. And we did catch some fish the last 2 days, believe it or not, in like 18, 20 feet of water. So there are bass moving out. We caught walleyes out deeper. We catch pike everywhere. They're chomping again. If you want to catch pike once again, we live in the pike epicenter of the world, this central Minnesota region. They're everywhere. They're a dime a dozen. They're a blast to catch, and they taste good. So the pike bite's pretty good. Still finding some bluegills on their beds, some. Most bed shorelines, typical bed shorelines for bluegills are done. You'll see vacant beds, recently vacant beds where they just left them, and you will see some on bed still. So don't get me wrong, we did find a pod on Friday, a good pod on top of a flat in like 3 feet of water where there was 2 colonies, probably 20, 25 beds each, and they were loaded. There was like 60 bluegills on each colony, even though there was 20 beds. They were loaded and they were all nice. Otherwise, every other bed colony spot we went by that day, vacant, no fish on them. So that's what you're seeing. And then you're going to see some bluegills still spawning deeper. Don't kid yourself. Some of the best bluegill fishing in terms of the spawn are on beds that you can't see. They're in deeper water, 8, 10, 12, 15 feet of water, 20 feet of water. Bluegills will bed in deep water, and sometimes, like I said, those are the biggest fish in the entire system. So, and you can't see them. So what you often can do is look at, if you have the ability to look at your Lowrance or the unit that you're using, and you can see the down imaging, the side scan type stuff, you can see those pockets and depressions of some of these nice systems out there. Otherwise, just trust the underwater camera. I use the underwater camera quite a bit still to look around and look for fish and that sort of stuff. So use the underwater camera to find those bluegill beds, because not only can you catch bigger bluegills, but those are generally where the big bass are right now. So if I see anything consistent with the bass pattern right now, it's they're still relating to bluegill beds like they were a week and 2 weeks ago, shallower. Now they're just finding those deeper bluegill beds, and bang, you can catch some fish. So how are we getting some of these fish to bite? a variety of ways. We're going to talk about the bass bite probably more so than anything, because that's really what we've been focusing on. If you want pike, I'll make it easy on you. Chatterbait, spinnerbait, crankbait, wacky rig, live bait, basically anything. They're biting everything you can think of. So if you want to go pike fishing, get out there and chase them down. You'll catch a bunch. Have fun doing that. But for the bass, we've had some consistent patterns once again. Again, you can cast reaction baits, whether it's the chatterbait, whether it's a swim jig, whether it's a crankbait, spinnerbait, even topwaters, whatever. They're biting them, so you can throw that kind of stuff and stay active and go catching. But our bigger fish have come on consistently the same things again. I'm not going to beat a dead horse on wacky rigs, but this is Brody's setup. This is my 6-year-old. He has been kicking our butts every time we go out. He continues to win the Johnson Challenge, and he's using a 6-foot medium light action rod with some 8-pound monofilament, and he's wacky rigging nonstop a Kamita. I take a lesson from his playbook because he continues to dominate us, and he just goes out there and fishes slow. And by far and away, the #1 color this past week, the Chameleon Candy was it. That was the jam, the one that changes colors for a while. That new bluegill pattern from Mr. Twister, this new bluegill Kamita, has been far and away the hottest color for us this past week. It's caught more fish than anything else, and that's when we have 4 anglers in the boat fishing wacky rig Kamitas, and I might put a variety of colors. That bluegill pattern, brand new this year, continues to outproduce everything else this week, and that's on Minnetonka, that's on Secret Lake to the north that I'm not talking about, that's on Chisago, so it's on a variety of bodies of water. That bluegill pattern has been hot. That's what I got tied on now, that's what he's got tied on now. We all switched to it, and we saw our catch percentage increase. So still continues to catch fish. We're still fishing that weightless, even in 6 to 10 feet of water. Let it go down, take a number of breaths, and trust that a fish is going to bite. If it doesn't, reel up, cast again. No different than flipping a jig. Speaking of jigs, we have been catching a pile of fish on jigs, and that's been probably my go-to bait, I would say, recently for a bigger bite. And I'm not fishing a heavy jig like a half ounce, or anything bigger than that, like an AT jig, rattling AT jig. I'm actually throwing lighter AT jigs, and I'm throwing that finesse jig from All Terrain. This is a blue-black finesse jig with a blue-green pumpkin pocket craw on the back. This is a smaller profile bait, thinner diameter hook, not as big as in the water column. I can fish it on a weed line, I can pitch it in the pockets. It's been an easy bait to fish, once again, to catch a number of them, especially when they're not destroying some of these baits. Those bigger fish are kind of weary right now. They're meandering through the weeds. This drops right through the weeds, got a great weed guard, and when they pick it up and move, you don't really need to hammer down on them because of that thin wire hook. So this has been a great bait for us probably this past week to really catch some of our bigger fish. The 2 fish I caught the other day that were larger, that were picture worthy, both came on this finesse jig. And whether it's a blue-black, Texas craw, peanut butter and jelly, whatever fits your fancy on a color. As you know, I'm not giant on color, but that profile bait seems to really get the fish to go. And I've been just using like 14 or 17 pound fluorocarbon, even 12 pound fluorocarbon on a bait caster setup, and been fishing them that way on a medium heavy action rod. Works exceptionally well. You can put the hammer down on it if you have to and catch fish, but that finesse jig continues to produce a pile of fish for us, and it's fun to fish. So a lot of ways to catch them. We did catch some on a power shot. I know my good friend BJ won a tournament this past week. BJ Brent, I know he's throwing a Nico rig, and he crushed a bunch of fish on that, so that's another great way to get out there if you want to add some weight. If you have some of these windy conditions and you want to still give kind of a wacky rig type application, you can fish a Nico rig. If you don't know what a Nico rig is, I'm going to save you some time. YouTube it. Go on YouTube. It has tons of videos to show you exactly what a Nico rig. It's different than a Ned rig. Some people think a Ned rig and a Nico rig are the exact same. Not even close. Google Nico rig, N-E-K-O, and you'll see a video on exactly what that bait is. It's a cool way to present your bait if you haven't done it already, and it's a fun, different way to present your bait. So check that out if you haven't. I expect the next time we talk, we're going to be talking a little bit of jig worms. I just have my gut because I'm seeing this transition happen. They're moving deeper. The pattern has been consistently moving that direction, and we're going to probably see some fish move truly onto the weed lines. I bet you next Sunday I'm talking jig worms a lot more than I am right now because I haven't mentioned it at all. So plan to fish some jig worms. I'm going to take a trip to Mille Lacs this week for a couple days. Maybe I'll have a report on Mille Lacs. I'm not a Mille Lacs expert, but I'm going to spend a couple days up there with some very knowledgeable Mille Lacs anglers, and maybe I have some tips for you up there as well. Otherwise, get out there, have some fun, chase down some fish, we're now into the later parts of June. July 4th holidays knocking on our door, and we're going to get out there and chase down some more fish. So have fun, be safe. Once again, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Enjoy your day, and we'll catch you next week.